Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Spark AI Show, where we try to take a look at what's going on within AI as it relates to the accounting profession and try and share some of those insights with you all. And so today, you might notice if you've been listening to previous episodes that we look a little different today. So it's just me today. I am coming to you with some sort of message around AI implementation, right? So let's just dive in. So one of the things that I get a chance to see as I work with our product Spark is how people are using it and how people are implementing AI, generative AI specifically, within their accounting firms. And one of the things that I've noticed, we're up over 1,000 firms that have signed up for accounts with our product. And one of the things I continue to see is that it's still just a few folks within the firms that are really exploring Gen AI. So, we've got all these thousands of firms and just a few folks are actually taking a look at it within these firms. Some of these firms are well over 100, couple hundred staff, right? And so what I think we need to sort of take a look at is how to sort of go a little deeper into those firms. One of the things that I've also noticed about those few people within the firms that are exploring and experimenting with AI is that they're typically either the IT folks, right? Those people responsible for ultimately responsible for the implementation and procurement of new software solutions, or they're the partners or owners of the firms. And arguably, the people that are set to take the most advantage of generative AI are your junior staff, your younger folks, and maybe more of those folks that just don't have the experience that the more senior level folks do. And the IT folks are great, right? They're a really big part of what we need to do. But at the end of the day, they're not the ones with the specific use cases that are going to help the firm's clients, whether that's tax, bookkeeping, et cetera. And so I think really getting AI tools into the hands of those people who are, quote unquote, boots on the ground, they're the production powerhouses within your firm. They're going to be the ones to identify those really powerful use cases that allow you to see huge benefits from this new technology. So let's jump into maybe how we can think about doing that within your firm. So the first thing that I would suggest is to assign or designate an AI champion. Now, this AI champion is really important because first of all, it's good to have somebody within the firm that owns the initiative, right? So this AI champion should be somebody that's technology forward. They're really focused on bringing new technology to the forefront and really figuring out how to leverage that within the firm. It should be somebody that people look up to in the firm, a good, sort of natural leader, somebody that can engage other staff, their colleagues, and somebody that can be a bit inspirational and assist with this change management piece and organized, et cetera, right? So these are some of the characteristics of a good AI champion. Obviously, it helps to have somebody that's really thinking about AI and all of that, but that's not necessarily a requirement. I would say take into consideration all those different characteristics and really identify who that person is. The next step is to support that person, right? Depending on the size of your firm, this may look a bit different. But really what you want to do is make sure that as you're exploring AI, you're really considering all of the different use cases that might be available to help within the firm, right? And if your firm is larger, that may extend to other functional areas, right? I mentioned IT right off the bat. You may have marketing, or you may have, sort of a sales type team. You may have other folks in the firm that aren't necessarily accounting specific, and they're going to have different needs and things to tackle that may require different tools and different functionality. And so it's good to surround that AI champion with what I call an AI council. And really the idea behind this AI council is to identify folks from each different functional area within the firm to be able to assist the AI champion, right? And also when it comes time to be able to sort of to cascade, messaging and functionality and help those within their teams learn how to best use these generative AI tools. And so the other thing that I think, once you have your AI champion and once you've got your AI council, it's really good for those people to sort of sit down and identify the products and tools that might be needed to accomplish your various use cases. So, sit down and think about what are the use cases that we can solve for, right? Early use cases that I find, most people see their first aha moments with generative AI are around writing and research, right? So I need to do some tax research for a scenario, maybe a complicated scenario that came in from a client, or I need to write a response letter to an IRS notice that one of your clients got. Maybe it's just as simple as responding to an email, right? Those are some early aha moments that we see folks have that kind of push them to the next stages. And really beyond that, I see, folks are really interested in using this to ingest, maybe P&L statements, balance sheets, those kinds of things year over year, and be able to compare those kinds of things and run analysis, right? Had a firm owner tell me recently that they took what is typically a 2-hour sort of process to analyze and jot notes and craft a summary to be able to send a summary of some of those reports to a client down to 15-20 minutes using generative AI, because it can pull, you can create a prompt that will pull all that information. So those are just some examples that you should have folks kind of outline. Maybe you do have a marketing team, and maybe they want to craft a marketing strategy or help refine some themes for blog posts and things like that. All of those things can be done, and they may require different tools. So identifying each of those use cases along the way will help you then identify which tools you need to be able to accomplish those tasks. The other part that's important around each of those use cases, once you have identified those, is really understanding the data that's involved in each of those, right? So obviously I mentioned P&L and balance sheets. That's going to involve client data. Now, is it sensitive client data? Well, it depends, right? It depends on what information you upload. So likely it's just categories and numbers, right? If you extract or redact the header, with company information and stuff like that. So you can get it to just that categories and information and numbers, right? It'll analyze that. If you're uploading 1040s or other tax documents, right, there's additional information, and you just need to be aware of what that data is, how you're using it, and what the goal is. That's going to help as we go down the process of implementation. So once you have that information, you understand the tools you're interested in using, the types of work and process and workflow that they're going to sort of sit within. You understand the data that's involved in each of those things. Now you can really start crafting what we call your AI policy. And the AI policy is kind of the key to this whole thing, right? It really allows us to provide some guardrails and guidelines to all of your staff, so that owners and IT professionals alike can feel comfortable that they have given some guidance as to what can be done and how it can be used. But also it gives the staff comfortability that they are operating within this sort of agreed upon framework. And so what does an AI policy look like? Well, sort of the anatomy of an AI policy is really, you need to provide an overview. What is generative AI? What are we talking about when we say AI or generative AI, and how we're going to interact with this? Then we like to just give some general guidance. And I should say, we have an AI policy. All of this stuff is in an AI guide that we have created in collaboration with Jason Stats. And so I'll link to that in the show notes. I'll also provide some direction for how to get there here at the end. But that's where a lot of this is coming from, right? So as I talk through each of these things, we have some guidance, we have a template that you can go pull. So that general guidance is going to give them a little bit of that initial framework on what generative AI is, where you expect to be using it, and that kind of stuff. And then we're going to dive in a little bit deeper, right? So then we want to get into what are those acceptable tools and products that we've identified, that we say, we've given these sort of the stamp of approval from various stakeholders, right? What is the acceptable use? What are those use cases, and what are the what kinds of data can be used within each of these tools, and which kinds of data should we be using, right? The opposite of that is prohibited use. So where are we explicitly calling out that we do not want certain kinds of data or certain kind of tasks to be performed by AI? We need to kind of outline those explicitly. And the last thing here is just sort of a statement on transparency and candor, right? So the idea is we want to be upfront with our colleagues and our clients about when and where we're using AI, and how that is impacting sort of the work that we do. And so, whether that's creation of disclaimers, et cetera, that you can put in emails or on websites and things like that. So those are that's sort of the anatomy of an AI policy. And then the last thing, as we talk about implementation of AI, is education and training. I think it's so important not to overlook this piece because oftentimes what we find is people said, they say, "Hey, here's an AI tool. Uh, Use it," right? And it's there's nothing beyond that, and it's really important that we continue to educate, we continue to train our folks on how they can use this to max benefit. Some strategies I would say are to carve out time during your staff meetings, whether it's an all staff meeting or whether it's different team meetings or things like that. Again, depending on the size of your firm, carve out some time to really explore how are people using it. What are the benefits they're finding? What are the use cases they're finding in the real world, right? So you can start with sort of ideal use cases when you're talking to your AI council and your AI champion, and they can come up with all kinds of use cases. But once it starts getting used, they're gonna push the boundaries, right? Your staff is gonna push the boundaries and really identify other use cases and scenarios in which it can really help. So surface those, carve out some specific time to surface those and have good discussion around that. Create a space or a channel, within Teams or Slack or whatever your messaging, internal messaging system of choice is, and have that carved out to discuss AI related topics. Whether that's new use cases or strategies like we talked about in the meetings, more of an async way to share that information. Maybe it's new or interesting products, right? So maybe they've identified a use case that the approved products don't really handle very well. Maybe they've found another product that they think can help with that. Carve out a space to be able to allow folks to share and experiment. The other piece here, and this is, again, I don't have a lot of guidance for you, but think about how you incentivize your staff to engage and to educate and train others, right? How do you incentivize your folks to really experiment? There are huge gains to be made in this area, and really empowering your staff is going to be key to exploring all of that. So, as I mentioned, we have a guide with a policy template. You can find that at ai.writeworks.com/policy. Again, I mentioned we've built that in collaboration with Jason's Stats. Jason is a great person to follow as well. So he's got tons of great use cases, tons of great information as it relates to AI and more. But he's got a lot of stuff to say about AI. And so we would love for you to be able to take that guide, rip the policy off, right? Take that policy, use it as a template to be able to build your own. The last thing I'll say is don't let this process get in the way. You can take the AI policy and put that right as step one, right? Have somebody implement the AI policy, and it can be as simple as, obviously, we'd love for you to try Spark, but pick a tool. Pick a tool that you feel comfortable with, that is not training on your data, that you can feel good about the data handling, and maybe it's a pretty restrictive policy at first, just to say, hey, you use this tool for these purposes, right? And that's all. Iterate on the policy over time. But I think it's really important that we empower our staff. We really need to go deeper into the firms. It can't just be the owners and IT professionals within the firm that are experimenting with this, right? And so with that in mind, start with a simple AI policy, iterate over time, choose your people that you want to be able to leverage within the firm who are engaging, inspirational, to be able to identify those use cases and to be able to experiment and explore. So with that, again, never hesitate to reach out. Feel free to comment on the videos, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you very soon. Thanks.